Hi, welcome to Automate with Kalyan. And today we are in the process of learning Java. And today we are going to see about Java variables. And what is mean by Java variables? A Java variable is nothing but a container which holds a value while the Java programming is executed. Meaning a variable holds some value. It will be a dynamic value. It cannot be a static value because the name itself saying, right, it's a variable. It means it will holds the variable. It keep varying things. That is what the variable is all about. So it's nothing but a container which holds the value while the Java programming is executed. That means variable is name of the memory allocation, right? It's nothing but simply you can say that variable is nothing but a name of the memory allocation. Simply we can say that. We can say like variable is the name of memory allocation, right? So there are three types of variables available in Java, and the first one is local variable. The second one is instance variable, and third one is static variable. We will be seeing one by one what is meant by local variable, what is meant by instance variable, and what is meant by static variable. So what is meant by local variable? The name itself saying is a local variable means the variable which is applicable only within the method, and it cannot be available outside the method. That means outside the method the variable cannot be accessed. That is called local variable, right? Let's see an example. So let me create I have a project like Java sessions. I have a package Java session.videos. Let me create a class file. Let me name it as variable concepts, right? So this is a class file, and I have a public static void main. A main method is over here. Okay, so I have a method over here. um, Let me say it as public. I'm saying some method. Let me say it as a method one or local method, something like that. I'm giving local method, right? So now inside the method, let me create some variables. I'm saying integer local one, something like that. It's a local variable, and I'm giving double local 2. You can see that variable is always associated with data type. So the local variable local 1 is associated with the data type integer, and local 2 variable is associated with the data type called double. Now and one more thing you have to remember, the local variable does not have any default value. That means if you are not initialize the variable, no default value will be written. The compiler itself will say that, hey, you didn't initialize any variable. So that is what it will be saying. Let's see whether it is saying or not. Now, in order to access the method, you remember we have to create an object. So class name space. Now to create an object, this is the syntax. Class name, the class name is variable concepts. Class name space whatever the user defined object name equal to new of class name, new of what are the class name. So once you give that, automatically the object will be created, and now you can access the method. You can see that it's a local method. Yes, local method, I have seen that. But now let us try to print this, right? Now I'm giving inside something system.out.println. I'm saying local one, right? Automatically the compiler is throwing the error. Hey, variable local one might not have been initialized. That is what I told before. Local variable should be getting initialized because it doesn't have any default value will be written. So you have to initialize that. So in order to remove this error, you have to initialize this variable. Let me say as 10. Now automatically this variable, the error has been removed. Now the same thing I'm trying to print local variable 2. Automatically again it is throwing error because the local variable 2 doesn't get initialized. So I'm initializing to 100.0 because it's a double. So I'm giving in the decimal value. Right now if you run this program, automatically 10 and 100 will get printed over here. Let me see. Let I'm running this. You can see that 10 and 100 getting printed over there. So that is the purpose of that is how the local variable will be acting upon. You can see here, and you have to remember local variable must be initialized. It cannot return any default value. That is what I will initialize that. And outside this local variable, say for example I have another method, right? Or if you want to access the local variable outside the method, let me see, say object dot, if I'm trying to say it as local, the compiler will not understand what is meant by local one, right? Because I told that local variable outside the method, it cannot be accessed. So local variable lifespan is within the method. Outside the method, you cannot access that. That is what it is not. The compiler is saying that I cannot resolve symbol what is my local one, and you can. So that is what. So local variable cannot be available outside the method. So that is what the local variable is all about, right? And hope it has been understood. Now this is local variable method. I can say that, or yeah, method with local variables. I can say method having local variables, that will be appropriate, right? So this is the one. Now we are going to learn about the next variable, instance variable. So instance variable is nothing but the variable which are defined inside the class of the body of the class, and it will have a return, I mean it will have a default value. That means even if you don't initialize it, still it will return the default value. That is the difference between instance variable and local variable. And if you want to have a difference between exact difference between local variable and instance variable, local variable will be written inside the method, and the instance variable will be written inside the class of the I mean the body of the class. And local variable does not have any default value, whereas instance variable have a default value. What is meant by default value, right? Let us try to understand. Now this is, I'm going to create instance variables, right? So instance variable, and instance variable, let me say integer. I am going to say as instant one, something like that I'm giving. And I'm saying the same thing, right? So double, or you can give some string, and it's another data type string. I'm saying instant 2, right? These two are instance variable that I'm declaring within the class of the body of the class, right? The class of the program, the body of the class of the program. And I didn't initialize these two variables. So even though I'm not initialized it, let us try to run it, right? Let me say as object dot, you can see that automatically these two variables, even though it is not written inside the method, but still it is available, right? While I'm trying to access with the object, it is available. Whereas the local variable, it was not available because the lifespan is within the method, right? Now let me try to print this. System dot out dot println. Same thing, I'm printing this one, right? You can see that the default, or you can print like this, the default value of integer instance variable, something like that, right? The same thing I will copy paste here. This is string, right? Let me try to run this now. Let me comment this local variable, I mean the local variable, so that not to avoid confusion. Now let me run this. See, I didn't initialize this instance variable, but still it will return the default value. So the default value of integer is 0 and default value of string is null. Let's see, it is returning that. See, even though I didn't initialize that, as I told before, The default value of integer is returned as 0, and default value of string instance variable is null. So that is what. So whereas the local variable does not have any default value, so you have to initialize it. Whereas in the instance variable, even if you not initialize, it will throw the default value of it. So the default value of integer variable is 0, and the default value of string variable is null. So that is what the instance variable is going to return when you didn't initialize, right? So if I want to initialize my own thing, if I want to hard code something, say the instant one, I'm saying it as 10, and the string I'm saying it as something like test, something, since it's a string I'm saying like test. Now if you run this, automatically whatever the value you have initialized, it will get printed over here. Let us rerun the program. Now the output will be 10 and test. See, now the 0 and null have been replaced by 10 and test. So that is what, right? So that is what the difference between local variable and instance variable. The instance variable will throw the default value if you not initialize, and if you initialize whatever the value, the hard code value, whatever you want to give, it will get printed over there. So that is what the difference between local variable and instance variable. And now let us see about what is the third type called static. And yeah, static, the name itself saying is a static, right? That means uh, the one key difference of static and the instance variable is when you declare the value or variable as static, it means that there is no need to create any object, because now to access the method or variables, no need to create an object. That is the key difference. And static variable, a local variable, I mean the local variable cannot be static, that you have to note it down. Whereas instance variable can be static, whereas local variable cannot be static. You cannot make it as static. Let us see the integer I'm trying to make it as static, right? It will not allow. So you can see that modify static not allowed here, because this is a local variable. Local variable, the static keyword will not be applied, whereas the instance variable, it is possible. I can say that, see, static, and I can make it as static, and see string also I make it as static. If I am declaring the instance variable as static, no need for that object at all, right? So it can be accessed straightly. That means no need to call the object at all, no need to create an object at all. So I am not using this obj object directly. I can give this, say, as instant one, right? So automatically that whatever the value of the static variable, it will get printed over here, and no need to create an object. Directly you can access this. That is the powerfulness of static. So that you have to understand, and you have to remember, local variable cannot have a static method, I mean static component over there. So you can see them, still it will fetch the same result, 10 and test. Even though I didn't use any object, but still it will fetch that. So that is the difference of static. So the key things you have to remember. So here, so variable is nothing but the name of the memory allocation. As I told, there are three types: local, instance, and static. And local is nothing but the variable the which is defined within the method, and lifespan is within the method. Outside the method, you cannot access any local variable, and it cannot be static, right? It cannot be static. You have to remember, it cannot be static. Whereas instance variable is the one declared inside body of the class and have default values, right? Whereas local variable cannot be static and doesn't have any default value, right? And static, no need for an no need to no need to have an object to access it, right? It means that even though it doesn't have any object, you can just call it automatically. The static variable can be accessed. So that is the key difference between all the three. And so before we are wrapping up this session, so one thing here, for the instance variable or static variable, we have hard coded to initialize it. If I want to pass the variables, if we want to initialize the variable and I want to pass the value at the runtime, uh, there is one concept called constructor. That is what we are going to see in the next section. Thanks for joining and have a good day.